But what about fire departments? There wouldn't be any fire departments in a world without government. Hey guys, how you doing? It's Tom. This video is part 2 in what will eventually be a 50+ video series titled In a World Without Government. Now, I actually made part 1 about 3 months ago, and I haven't came back to the concept until now. And the reason for that is the events that have taken place in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, I released a video titled The Truth About Taxation, in which I went over in depth, and if you haven't watched this, because it's a very important topic, please watch my video titled Tax Day, The Truth About Taxation. But I went over the in-depth history of the federal income tax in the United States of America, and I also talked about the federal income tax as it is today. To make my argument short, and I hope you don't sell it short, I hope you go back and watch my full presentation on the truth about taxation, but to make it short, I argued that we have an illusion of choice between Democrats and Republicans in federal elections. That choosing between the Democratic and the Republican Party is basically asking a bully which arm you would like him to punch you with. Do you want the Democrats to punch you with the left arm or the Republicans to punch you with the right arm? It's still the same big bad bully that is the United States federal government beating you all over the schoolyard. And of course the politicians are all controlled, the same corporate elites, the same oligarchy that pays the Democratic candidates, pays the Republican candidates, and all of these candidates have to get the stamp of approval through the kingmakers in the Council on Foreign Relations. So federal elections are really an illusion of choice. And if that is the case, we essentially live under a government which taxes us without representation, something we started the Revolutionary War over in 1776. Now, if we're not represented, then the federal government is telling us that if we don't give them 20–30% of our income, that they will imprison us. And of course they're able to do that because they're pointing a metaphorical gun, the full power of the United States of America, at you. There's really nothing you can do. We have no choice but to pay our federal income taxes. Now, if a robber walks up to you on the street, pulls a gun on you without your consent, says, "Give me the contents of your wallet," you take out your wallet and you give him your money, there is no question that that is theft. And I think we would all agree that that type of theft is immoral. Well, if that type of theft is immoral, and we're not represented by the federal government, yet the government is taking our money at the threat of imprisonment, then the government is pointing a gun at us and robbing our wallets. They're committing theft. And if theft is immoral on the one hand, then theft is immoral when the government does it. Taxation is theft, therefore taxation is immoral. And that's the gist of the argument that I made. But of course when I put that out, I got responses from certain people who are skeptics. And among the arguments I received were, how could the country possibly function? It's an agreement within society. How could society function without federal taxation? And that inspired me. I knew I had to get back to my video series, which I'm very excited about, by the way, titled In a World Without Government. So the topic of this video is fire departments. Why do I choose that topic? When I was reading Ben Franklin's autobiography, that's the cartoon man with the kite behind me. When I was reading his autobiography, in one of the chapters he talked about the fire department that he started in Philadelphia. And he didn't have public funds for any of the equipment or to pay the firefighters. So what Ben Franklin did is he got some paper, he started a 50-50 raffle, and weekly he would just go around town, say this is the 50-50 raffle for the fire department. Do you want to be a part of it? It goes to a good cause because now your house will be safer if it catches on fire. We'll show up and try to put the fire out. We'll try to save your family. And you're part of a raffle. It's fun. You could win a good deal of money. And people went for this, and people bought the 50-50 raffles. And just like that, without taxation, Ben Franklin had started a fire department in Philadelphia. Just a little creativity, a little innovation goes a long way. And I think people's response to my video really shows why this series, In a World Without Government, is so important. I mean, the topic of fire departments, it seems benign, it seems unimportant, but it just shows the response I got to my taxation video that people are so indoctrinated. People are so hopelessly unable to think for themselves and to imagine a world outside of the cultural paradigm that they live in, a world outside of the matrix that they've grown up in, that if we don't present these new ideas, then they will never occur to most people in society. In fact, this is why most people in society can't envision a world outside of the two-party paradigm, right? Because if you turn on CNN, you get Democratic Party propaganda, establishment Democratic Party propaganda, and oligarchy propaganda. And if you turn on Fox News, you get establishment Republican propaganda, as well as military-industrial complex propaganda. And those are the two sides of the paradigm that are presented to the public. Same thing in the school system. I mean, the school system, they pretty much present the left side, the Democratic side, as well as pro-war stuff for the Republicans. They don't teach people about false flags, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that people are presented two sides of the same coin. You get punched by the left arm, you get punched by the right arm, and people are so unable to think for themselves that they are unable to envision a world outside of what they have seen. And that's why this video series is so important. So I'm going to continue to pick little topic here and little topic there to show different methods, different ways in which society could function outside of government, in which society could function outside of the government putting a metaphorical gun to our heads and taking our money through taxation. There's also another grander point to what I've just presented. We've established, and I think it's pretty clear, it's pretty obvious, that most people are unable to envision a world outside of that is presented to them in the school system, and outside of that that's presented to them on television, whether that's the mainstream media, CNN, Fox News, whether that's Hollywood movies, Comedy Central, late night talk shows. That's it. People are unable to think outside of that cultural paradigm, unable to innovate, unable to think for themselves. This is why the establishment pushes this culture of political correctness on us. This is why the establishment attacks anyone who attempts to present different arguments as conspiracy theorists. This is why the establishment attempts to silence free speech under the guise, the umbrella of protecting people from hate speech. This is why hate speech is used as justification, as well as protecting people from fake news is used as justification to censor people on Facebook, to censor people on Twitter, to censor people on YouTube, to purge them from these platforms. Because the powers that be know that people are unable to think outside of the arguments that are presented to them. So it is of their self-survival, of their corruption and their agenda to prevent free thinkers from coming in and presenting people with alternative arguments that they wouldn't otherwise think of for themselves. So the establishment does everything they can, calling people conspiracy theorists, combating fake news, censoring people under the guise of hate speech, to prevent people who are not awake, people who are unable to think for themselves, from hearing arguments from those of us that are awake, are able to innovate and think for ourselves. And this is why we have to defend free speech at all costs. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to work on this video series. This was a short video, but I think the point is powerful. If you haven't watched part 1, it's titled In a World Without Government, Food Safety. I strongly recommend you watch that. Thank you so much for your time. If you want to follow me on my other social media, I could be censored at any minute. I upload these videos to TomFFRnews on Bitchute. I am Tom Anderson on Steemit, TomFFRnews on Twitter, Tom Anderson on Gab, Tom Anderson on Facebook, FFRnews on Facebook, FFRnews on Minds. And if you really appreciate my message, if you want me to be able to reach a wider audience, help empower me so I could do this full time, please donate as little as $1 monthly. $1 makes a huge difference to me at www.patreon.com/FFRnews. Thank you, and long live liberty.